Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I am so thrilled to have Adrian Moreno on the show today. Adrian, you began your career in the health and fitness space, but you also do hypnosis and NLP. So yes. I'm a big believer in all of those things. So very excited to hear about your journey. And I think what's really interesting about your story is that, you learned from some people. I want you to tell your story, but I'm just going to tee it up a tiny bit. You listen to some experts. There are so many experts out there telling us what we need to do and how we need to market on social media, right? And not everything that they do is going to work for all of us. And not all of us have the time to implement all of those.
So do we want to, honestly?
Exactly. So you created something that you're going to share with our audience today. And I am so excited for you to share this knowledge. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah. So please tell us a little bit more about you, your journey, why fitness, and how you...
For sure. So I won't take y'all year by year, but in 2014, I went through a high school heartbreak, the kind of heartbreak where your whole world comes crumbling down. And so because I thought my world was crumbling down, I felt like it was, I acted like it. And, long story short, grades, I was never really a good student, but still grades went down to the 20s and it was horrible. In a way, I was training to be a fireman because I was part of Austin's Explorers program, which gives you a leg up to land in the AFD after you graduate. Because I had dreams of being a fireman and I had my head on my shoulders and I was going in the right direction, a good direction. But when this breakup happened, I really stopped caring about all of that. So I dropped all of it. And to make it worse, I gained 100 pounds in 4 years or 98 pounds in 4 years. And I lost my job. And the only way that I made money for a couple of years was just, very honestly, selling weed. And that was my thing. So I was an entrepreneur in some way and I didn't know it. But one day, one of my friends, I called him over to come hang out. All we did at the time was get together and smoke weed. Nothing productive. But this was the most productive weed smoking session I guess I've ever had because he comes over and I open the door when the doorbell rings, but I open the door without a shirt. Now, this is not to be sexy. This is because it's an important part of the story. When I opened the door without a shirt, my friend Gilbert at the time was my best friend. We hung out every day, but I guess it was a long time that it's been since he's seen me without a shirt. And so he saw me and he looked up and down and said 5 words that changed my life forever. That was, damn, Adrian, you got fat. Wow. Now, don't fat shame me. This is just my story, right? And I was like, he was like, damn, Adrian, you got fat. And for summer, I knew I was gaining weight. You gained 98 pounds in 4 years. You know it, right? It's I knew I was gaining weight, but for some reason it didn't sting yet. Until this moment. When he said it, I don't know what it was about how he said it, the way he said it, I don't know, but it hurt. And I got mad, not at him, but at me, because I was like, dude, you had a 6-pack 4 years ago. I was like, what happened to you? And so that basically led me to making a decision that day before he left. I was like, watch, I'm about to lose all of this weight. I woke up the next day and I haven't stopped since. But fast forward 9 months, I lost 91 pounds. And, that changed my life. Losing 91 pounds is a very life altering experience.
Right.
And I lived with my mom at the time and we had the house that all the kids came and hang out. I was the neighborhood house that. My mom just made food for everybody. Right. And so I had about 4 or 5 of my friends working out with me in the garage. Because what happened was, if you're my friend and you're hanging out with me, you're going to work out with me. We weren't doing anything else. And so I was like, y'all are going to have to work out. They're like, all right, whatever, we're hanging out with you. So we're going to do it. So they were all working out with me. And eventually one of my friends said one day, as I was explaining because I used to have a whiteboard drawn with everything, all the stations, the time we're going to be doing and all of that. And one of my friends said, Adrian, he stopped me dead in my tracks as I'm explaining the workout for the day. And he goes, why don't you just get paid for this? And I said, I said, you know what? I was like, hold on, people pay for this, right? I was like, I got a skill right now. I was like, all right. I went inside, Googled, how do you become a personal trainer? That day, I bought the A certification training program that night. And then within 6 months, I had my certification. But 2 months in, I realized there is no law that says I have to be a certified trainer to work with people. There is no law, at least in Texas, that I know of. And so I said, screw it, let's do it. I made a Facebook post, hey, $20 sessions, come work out with me. And I had 14 people immediately sign up.
Oh my God.
But I was charging $20 a session. So I was broke. Right. And so working a lot, broke, but I was happy because I was like, oh my God, people need me. I felt important. I felt like valuable. And one day I was like, okay, I got to figure something out because I'm not making shit. Excuse my language, but that's kind of how I am. Anyways, I was like, I got to like figure something out. And so I kept getting bombarded with these ads on Facebook from this guy named Sterling Griffin. And all these ads were saying, hey, you broke trainer. Do you want to like go online and, make some money? And I was sitting there like, yes, like I am a broke trainer and I do want to. The marketing worked and it got me to click, got me to book a call. We're on the sales call. Sales guy, Mike, on the other line said, hey, $10K. I had $2,000 to my name, but I wanted what was on the other side of the yes more than the $2,000 in my pocket. And I knew, dude, $2,000, you're broke anyway. Don't try to hold on to this. And so I put the $2,000 down, found a way to just raise the rest of the money from asking a bunch of family and friends if they can like give me some money and I'll help them out with a little bit of interest when I pay it back. And I had enough people help me out to the point where I was able to pay the rest of the bill. And, 27 sales calls, 27 no's. I thought nothing was going to work. On my 28th sales call, I got a $1,500 sale. Somebody finally said yes. Something happens when something works. Confidence sets in. And so I get like really confident. I'm like, I'm a damn salesman. I can do this thing. And I just start closing a bunch of deals after that. And 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K, like it just really started growing very quickly. And I was noticing something though. I'd have two clients. Somebody paid me $3,000 for 3 months and changed their life. Another person paid me $3,000 for 3 months and just bring a big fat book of excuses to every single meeting. And they're like, I just can't work out. I can't eat right. Like, you don't understand my situation. Then I don't buy into that. But anyways, instead of getting angry, I get curious and I'm like, okay, well, in other words, what's going on in this person's psyche that's causing them to, act like a sissy and like not do what they told me they wanted to do. Right. I was like, what's going on? And so I YouTube the word neuroscience. That's all I knew was the word neuroscience because of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I just remember I knew of him. I read like half of one of his books. And so I just typed in neuroscience. And then I stumbled on another Joe Dispenza video and I went down this rabbit hole of neural pathways. I discovered just from watching like a 5-minute video, if you want to change your behavior, you have to just reorganize your neural pathways. You can't create different neurons. But so neurons, just to break it down really quickly, neurons are like these groups of cells inside of your brain. And these are basically what are responsible for every single decision you make, every action you take, all of this. Neural pathways are groups of neurons wired in a certain way based off of it being trained to be wired that way. If you wake up every day, you put on your left shoe first, within 2 weeks, you would automatically put on your left shoe first because you trained and you wired a set of pathways. So if you want to change behavior, you can't create new neurons. You just got to reorganize the way that they're wired. And so with that new realization, I was like, dude, like you got to figure out how to change people's neural pathways. And that's where I stumbled upon hypnosis. I looked into cognitive behavior therapy. I love therapists. I have some good friends who are therapists, but the success rate is 38% with an average of 22 to 26 sessions. Oh, so, and that's, you can Google that. That's not just like me. So as an entrepreneur, I love efficiency. And so I was like, that's not efficient. And I got to find another way. And then I stumbled upon this beautiful headline, very biased, but it still said 100% better than therapy 100% of the time. It caught my attention. I read it. It talked about this thing called hypnosis, but I saw the guy who wrote it was a hypnotist. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, dude, all right, this is the most biased thing ever. I don't believe in things unless I can experience it. And so what I decided to do was, hey, I have a fear of public speaking because I don't know if you can tell yet, but I have a speech impediment. I can't say my R's correctly or my S's. And so I had this fear of speaking because of that. And what I decided to do was hire a hypnotist, spent $250. He hypnotized me over the phone. There was no Zoom. There was no
wow. Oh my gosh.
Phone. And now I make more than half my revenue through speaking. And so I became a speaker after that. And when I noticed how confident it made me, in other words, when I noticed that it worked, right, I became all in on learning how to do it. And so bought a couple of books on hypnosis. And then I enrolled in Marissa Peer's Rapid Transformational Therapy certification program, learned that method. And to date, I've hypnotized maybe over like close to like 500 people, and a big reason I was able to work with so many clients was because of the power of the strategy that we're about to get into. But with that hypnotherapy business, when I transitioned to become a hypnotherapist, I was like, okay, I have this fitness thing that's working, right? Like this was my strategy. So guys, I paid $10,000 for this. Ready? Here you go. Send 50 friend requests a day. DM every single one of them with an offer. And that offer sounds exactly like, hey, Anika, I'm starting a brand new program to help women lose 30 pounds in 6 months. And I was wondering if you happen to know anybody who might be interested in it. That was my message. And believe it or not, it sounds grimy, but it worked. And I actually ended up making a bunch of money doing it. And then, of course, make offer posts, and stuff like that. And always post on social media and yada, yada, yada.
Hold on. Let me stop you there.
Go ahead.
Because key points that I'm getting out of what you shared so far, right?
Okay.
You had a tragedy that happened to you. It caused you to completely change who you were, your trajectory, because you were on a path to success. Mm-hmm. So you went on a different path. You gained weight. You sold weed. You kind of just were like the stoner playing video games on the couch.
Literally. I wasn't playing video games. I was watching The Office. But that was me.
Okay. But all it took was one person to say something to you for that switch to flip, right?
Like it woke me up from a slumber.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then from then, you kept on learning and you used, clearly, you're a smart guy. Even if you didn't get good grades, you weren't really studious, there was something inside you that wanted to succeed and wanted to persevere. Yeah. And you were able to use your inquisitive mind to figure out how to do things, right? So Absolutely. That's one of the first things. The second thing is marketing worked on you. You shared 2 examples of people who were like, okay, yeah, I'm going to spend $10,000 on this program. And as you said, it worked for you. And then the hypnosis and the NLP and learning how to do that. You looked up something. There was some retargeting marketing, digital advertising coming to you, and it worked. So these are some things that I think the audience needs to hear.
Marketing works.
Marketing works, but also it only takes one person to say something that can change your whole life.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. So yes. So you hired the mentor, you sent the friend requests, you posted 2 times, you DM'd a lot of people. I mean, I get marketed to like that all day long.
Exactly. So when I did it, by the way, some context, this was 2018. So like, it wasn't a big thing. Like,
right. Yeah. I was just starting.
It was not a like cold DMs on Facebook, direct offers to get clients. It wasn't a thing. And so I believe it converted a lot higher back then, because now it's like, if you go and try to do that, like the market is a lot more sophisticated now. Yeah. And so it's like, it can still work. Do not get me wrong. I wouldn't, there's better ways to do it. Yeah. So, which we'll talk about here, but
yeah. So then did you combine your fitness with the hypnosis and the NLP?
So I did it first.
Okay.
But then I am also a believer in doing one thing and being very good at that one thing. And when it came to fitness coaching, there are people who are way better than me. And to be honest, I'm not a passionate fitness guy. I just like to take care of myself. To be honest, I'm also very interested in making money. And so I saw an opportunity to make money doing that. And so I wasn't like super attached to it. And also my confidence for hypnotherapy was way higher because my very first practice session, the guy stops drinking alcohol after drinking alcohol for 23 years.
Oh my God.
So my confidence was like, Tony Robbins, who? Like I became super freaking like confident. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go all in on this. Now, I did it very abruptly. Like I made the decision, told my clients, some of them dropped off. Some of them were like, well, I love this hypnosis stuff. So I got some other things you can help me with. And then I just really went all in on it, rebranded everything and filed a DBA to change like what we're doing business as and all of that. But the one thing I didn't do was rethink the marketing and rethink the product and rethink the fact that, hey, this may be a different kind of like approach, a different kind of sell. And so I just continued doing everything I did in the fitness business, everything I just said, but nothing was working. I went almost 6 months without a client. Yes. So talk about the longest dry spell I've ever experienced. And I don't wish that on anybody, but 6 months. And during that 6 months, insecurity piled up because your business isn't working anymore. I don't care what people say, like business is business, but at the end of the day, your personality is attached to a business when you start it. And that's like the fact of it. And so it did hurt, and so that lack of confidence showed in everything else that I did. And, it just piled up and bills piled up and my savings was dwindling down. Thankfully, I made enough money to like save and live for a little bit. but it was going away all the way to the point where I had to go back to mom's house and, make the phone call that you don't want to make. Hey, Ma, can you clean out the bedroom and can I move back for a little bit and get back on my feet?
Yeah.
So I had that dark night of the soul kind of thing. And during this time of like just still doing the same DM stuff, hoping that it worked.
Right.
During this time, something special happened. One of the clients that I did manage to get, because I managed to get a couple of them after the 6-month dry spell, one of the clients that I did manage to get, she loved my work so much. She was an entrepreneur. She ran a business mastermind and she goes, Adrian, why don't you come and speak to my students? Because what you do is really interesting. I was like, sure. I go on the call. She's like, yeah, 20, 30 people should be there. Cool. Turns out she didn't really push it. 9 of them showed up, but still did my thing. And the cool part was 3 out of the 9 became clients of mine. For those who don't know, that's over 30% conversion rate, which is extremely high when it comes to the closing ratio of a room. And 3 of them ended up becoming clients of mine, each paying me $5,000 each. I was very high ticket, 3 sessions, $5,000. And all of them paid in full. None of them had a single objection. And they were amazing freaking clients.
So 3 sessions of hypnosis for $5,000.
Yes, $5,000. Yes, 3.
Wow.
I don't do anymore. I don't believe in multiple hypnotherapy sessions.
Okay. So you don't do that now. You still do. Okay.
We can get into it a little bit, but my new business is taking off right now and it's showing much more profitability in terms of freedom, time, and it gives me a lot more leverage. And so I am turning it down on the hypnotherapy side with the intention of closing down in the next couple of months for the sole purpose that I'm not trying to do 20 hours of hypnotherapy sessions a week anymore. I have a business that, it's a course and it's selling a lot. It's selling to the point where I don't have to deliver because it's a course, it's already done.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm a passionate entrepreneur. I love building stuff. And so I built something new. It's working. And if I put all my attention on it, it would definitely do more than my hypnotherapy thing.
Okay.
But I am starting to slow it down. But the reason why I don't believe in multiple hypnotherapy sessions, you'll notice that what happens is when you start seeing a hypnotherapist, every time you have a problem, you automatically think, let me go see my hypnotherapist. And then what happens is you devalue the power of your own suggestion because all hypnotherapy is the ability to make a suggestion that somebody absolutely believes. And a suggestion is something as simple as I'm cute, I'm not, I'm smart, I'm dumb, I'm whatever. It's all a suggestion. It's all an assumption too. And you can hypnotize yourself all day. I believe in my suggestion. When I say I am a savage marketer, I believe in the power of my own suggestion. So I teach that to my clients. I'm like, guys, I'm not hypnotizing you. You're hypnotizing yourself. I'm just doing stuff because I know how to do it, but you don't need me. And that's why I'm charging you a whole bunch of money right now because I'm not going to do a 6 or 12 month contract with you. Okay. And so you're going to pay me a lot of money. And so that's my philosophy around hypnotherapy. I'm not a fan of hypnotherapists who do ongoing contracts and weekly sessions. And I just don't see it.
But you also saying that through the power of suggestion through hypnotherapy, even for yourself, you said you went to one session and you became a public speaker.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I guess I am. I'm a phenomenal public speaker. I've done things people are like, oh, who trains you? And I'm like, nobody. I just got hypnotized to believe I'm a speaker. And so I act like one. It's crazy. This is literally hypnosis working. Because if you knew me in 2017, would have been like, what the heck? And so it's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow. I love this. I love your journey and the perseverance you've shown time and time again. Absolutely. And I've tried some of the DM techniques as well through Instagram. Actually, I did it a few years ago. And I did get results, but it's not something that's natural to me.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel too good I realize it doesn't feel good for a lot of people. And I get it, it's business and stuff. But if it doesn't feel good to you, it's probably going to stop you from doing it, and which is going to hurt your profitability at the end of the day. And business is about profitability. And so to that point, right, whenever I had this moment where all 3 of them ended up paying me, I believe in one of the most underrated skills an entrepreneur can have is the ability to pause and reflect. Straight up. So many entrepreneurs just go, go, go. They do not stop, pause, and reflect. And so what I did was I saw something worked better than anything else I've done. Yes, it was a small scale, but it worked. And so I thought, let me figure out what just happened and double down on this.
Nice.
And so as I started reflecting on what the hell just happened, and remember, 15K in a day. I've never had that. And so I was like, what just happened? And that's when I had my epiphany moment. And that epiphany for me, see that hypnosis snap that I have? But anyway, that epiphany moment came for me, which was instead of marketing directly to your customer, like a DM, why don't you just market to the people in the organizations that have heaps of your customer, that have already gathered all of your customers, and then be endorsed by them?
Yes.
Because what happens is you automatically gain something that is the only reason somebody buys from you. Everybody talks about being known, liked, and respected. To be honest, I bought from people I haven't liked, but I respect the hell out of what they are teaching or what they're good at. And so I will buy. And so that is the true thing that makes somebody buy is respect. There is a lot of people that I love. I would never give a penny to them. And so it comes down to, are you respected by your audience? If you are respected by your audience, you can charge higher fees. You can say, do this, and they will do it. He's like your general doctor saying, hey, you have a heart problem. Here's this doctor who works specifically on hearts. He's going to save your life. Go right now. Are you going to get on Google, look at all the reviews of this guy? Are you going to price shop? Are you going to look for a different? No, you're going to be quiet, and you're going to go to the doctor, and you're going to say, here's my credit card. Take care of me. The reason why is because that endorsement. And so what happens is you cut this long, grueling path of trying to get somebody to respect you. I'm trying to get somebody to, again, it's not know, like, and trust, it's respect. And so you skip that. And so it accelerates, minimizes the customer journey from prospect to customer. And so when I had that epiphany, I became obsessed with getting in front of other audiences. I thought, okay, how can I start to get in front of more audiences of entrepreneurs? Like, these are my people. And so I started making a list of all these masterminds. And as I'm making a list of all these masterminds, I go take a walk, multiple walks a day, because that's when ideas come. When your mind is calm, walking calms you down. And so while I was on a walk, it hit me. Why don't you get on podcast? Because podcasts are kind of like this mastermind. They have a trusted and respected host, and they have an engaged audience, the listeners.
Right.
If I can get on a show and be interviewed and give value, I am literally being endorsed as a value add from this host that they trust and respect. And so they're automatically going to trust and respect me. And so I remember I was in this mastermind where one of the students in the mastermind, she taught people how to get booked on podcasts. So she did like a little training on how to do it inside of the mastermind. So I go in the mastermind, I look it up, watch the training. Remember, I'm very quick to just, okay, I want to do something, get a quick idea on how to do it, and then do it.
Yeah.
Right. So
I
was like, okay, let me get a quick idea on how to do it. She gave us a script and everything. I was like, perfect. So I pitched 40 shows with this script. I don't even get a no. I don't even get a response. It was crickets. And so I was like, all right, reflect. Let's stop, let's pause, let's reflect, and let's break down why this thing here doesn't work. And so as I look at it, two things became very apparent. Number one, the pitch started it literally starts like this. Hey, Anika, my name is Adrian, and I am a hypnotherapist who does blank, 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 and I've been doing this for 5 years. I really think I can be valuable for your show because blah, 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 blah. It starts with, hey, my name is blank and I do blank. In other words, it's all about you. There is a rule of marketing that triumphs every other rule of marketing, and that is nobody cares about you. They only care about what you can do for them.
Right. And the hero's journey is not about you or your product. It is about the hero is the customer.
Exactly.
Client.
Every single time. You're just this facilitator who's like, hey, here's your journey. I'm going to facilitate you along this thing.
Exactly.
You're the one. And so, number one, I saw why that didn't work. I was like, okay. And let's be honest. I know you get a lot of pitches too. A lot of them start like that.
I get a lot.
And it immediately, hey, here's my accomplishments. Do you want to book me? And a lot of them don't even check out your podcast. It's like the most insane thing ever. Okay. So anyways, I saw that. And then the second thing was this pitch was 760 something words.
Oh, wow. And no.
This is a PR person telling me to do this.
And I'm a publicist and I'm cringing right now.
Right. Think about if you got that cold email in the middle of your day, what is the likelihood that you're going to read it? You're not going to read it. And so I was like, all right, you know what? Let me just act like I didn't watch this training. Beginner's mind. Let me put my skill of being a hypnotist and a copywriter together. And so it was like a hypnotist and copywriter walk into a bar. And then I realized, oh, All I need to do is get them emotional, because if I can get them emotional, I have the remote control to their brain. Mm-hmm. And if I can get inside of their emotions, I can get them to say yes to anything I'm asking them to do. And so, because that's one of the things that I got trained in hypnotherapy, is accessing the gate of emotion, which is the subconscious mind. That's like your emotional mind. And so the number one way to get inside somebody's emotion and appeal to emotions is to create a picture, install a picture in their mind. When you install a picture in somebody's mind, you will feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. Right now, picture the person that you love the most, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's your pets, whether it's your parents, whether it's your grandma, whoever that is. If you just close your eyes and imagine their face, you will feel all nice, warm, and fuzzy inside. That goes to show that pictures create feelings. And so my next thought was, how can I put a picture in their mind? Mm-hmm. Oh, stories. Because when people tell stories, I guarantee you, when I was telling people about my friend calling me out saying you're fat, me shirtless in front of the door, I guarantee you, as I described that, I guarantee you people were picturing it in their mind.
So you're so speaking my language. This totally goes back to the neural pathways. When somebody hears a story and they feel this emotion and they see the pictures in their mind, that changes.
They're all lighting up.
Exactly.
Like if you hear a story about somebody swimming, the same neural pathways that will show you're swimming will start lighting up in your mind. Just picturing it. So that's what I mean by leveraging my hypnosis skills. I was like, okay, what do I know about human behavior? Because that doesn't change. And so with that epiphany, I was like, all right, stories. Now, how can I tell my story, but do it in a way where I can stand out? Well, I run a top show too. I receive literally thousands of pitches at this point. I have never, ever received a video pitch. So what I did was turn on my webcam and told a story, a very hypnotic, captivating story. And I sent 10 of those pitches out. And by the way, this is not one video that I sent to 10 people. This is per person. I created a video. I said the name of the show. I said why I liked it. I highlighted an actual episode. I highlighted something talked about in that episode. And then I used storytelling and then made my simple pitch. And I sent 10 out, got booked on 8. That's when I realized, oh crap, I have something here. In 2022, I pitched 121 shows. I got booked on 52 of them. But the cool part is I generated $213,000 in hypnotherapy sales. And now I've been on like 80 something shows. But yeah. And so I was able to literally save my business. And now I just show people how to do it. And I know we're like 25 more minutes here, but yeah, I'd love to kind of break down the framework for your audience so they can understand how to like market like this. Cause it's a, great way to amplify your brand is, and so, yeah.
Yes, I'm here for it. And you've hit on so many things that I talk about and that I teach because I teach at university. I also have an online course. This is stuff I tell my clients or when I'm doing speaking engagements to make sure that people in different industries understand how to use storytelling and branding. You need to have those locked in before you can even understand how to effectively market, advertise, or do a PR campaign. If you don't know, if you don't understand those fundamentals, you're not going to get as far as you would.
Picture affiliate marketers selling the same product.
Right.
One talks about all the gadgets and stuff.
Yeah.
You, even though the customer knows you're selling the same damn thing, they know it. But you tell a story behind that product and you tie it to your pitch, they're going to think that's a different product and they're going to buy it. And so like the story of Schlitz beer. So the Schlitz beer company in the early 1900s, they wanted to hire Claude Hopkins, which was a legendary advertiser. They wanted to bring him in to run a campaign. And they were number one in the European market. They wanted to take over the US market. They wanted to like start getting into the US and become one of the number one selling beers in the US. So they hired Claude Hopkins to create a marketing campaign for the US. And so they invite Claude Hopkins into the actual beer plant or the brewery. And they're walking through showing Claude Hopkins every single piece from A to Z, from, step one all the way to it's going down your throat now. This beer is going down. Like he showed him the entire process. Claude Hopkins was mind blown. He was like, this has to be the most sophisticated process I've ever seen in my life. This is the most captivating thing I've ever seen. Why are you not telling people about this? The representative goes, well, Claude, everybody makes beer like this. Every other beer company does exactly what we do. He goes, so there's nothing special about it. And Claude Hopkins goes, yeah, that may be true, but there's nobody who's telling the story yet. Exactly. Nobody's doing it yet. Because back then in the early 1900s, beer was marketed as pure. It's pure. Try our pure beer. It's pure. It's pure. But nobody knew what the hell that meant.
Right.
And so Schlitz beer came in and said, pure, here's what we mean. First, this thing went boom, boom, boom. The entire marketing campaign within 6 months, they became number one. And that goes to show that there are no boring stories.
Right.
All stories are interesting. The fact of the matter is not all stories are told.
Exactly.
So when you tell a story, you will automatically become more interesting. I guarantee you, if you found somebody else who had a course that showed people how to get booked on podcasts and they just talked about their course, I guarantee you 11 times out of 10, you're going to buy from me. The reason why is because you just heard this. I mean, you're listening to a story, you get emotionally bought into it, and you're like, you know what? This course may suck a little bit more than that one, but God dang it, this story just got me.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that also makes you an amazing guest, because the episodes that perform the best are the ones where people are willing to be real. We don't all, just because we have this, and this in our names, or we've had these businesses or whatever, we've still gone through a lot to get here. We still have stories of hardship or this or that, or things that happened. And we have to be willing to be vulnerable with our audiences and share those. When people come on to my podcast and, like you're saying, they just want to talk about their
kind of like a teaching moment. Also, when people come and they, it's like a teacher thing, like advice giving and stuff, it's just not received. It's not received well because you haven't opened them up. If you open somebody emotionally, then you can give them ideas and they're receptive to ideas.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. So now you do a lot of podcast guesting, you do a lot of public speaking, you're making sales from this. Now, I think there's a couple of things I want to touch on. One is you have a 3-step framework. And then I want to touch on, because a lot of people don't really understand how to monetize podcasts, right? And I'm going to be honest, like I teach at USC in the Digital Media Management Master's Program, and I have a lot of students wondering, okay, podcasts, we know whether you're a PR, journalist, advertising, marketing, whatever, podcasts is where the future is heading. And so people need to understand, we spend a lot of money creating the content, vetting the guests, editing, making sure it's all on social, but there also comes a time when we have to monetize. And how do you monetize? So I'd love for you to get into how you've used podcasting to monetize. And I know we're also going to get people to go to your website and check out all your stuff there, but that 3-step framework.
Yeah, for sure. So first, let me discuss, I am not an expert on helping people monetize a podcast from the host side of you. I have found a way to monetize mine, and I'll just share with you what I use my podcast for. So I have a podcast called My First 1,000. I interview founders from every industry to discover, hey, how did you get your first 1,000 customers without having a capital investor or without having deep pockets? In other words, how did you do it? And the reason why I started this podcast was to selfishly build relationships with founders that I could partner with. And so I started to interview guests that I knew had my audience. And after the fact, hey, if I come across any other shows that I think will be great fit to have you on, would you be open to hearing about that? Yeah, sure. Because now I'm offering them other guest slots.
Exactly.
I'm plugged into podcasting. Yeah. So I know people and I follow through. Give me a day. I get them booked on my behalf. I pitch in everything for them, get them booked. Now the relationship is really starting to set. Now they're like, this dude is dope. He just got me booked on another show after I did his show. And then after that, I say, I notice that you do blank, 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 blank. I can't help but get the fact out of my mind that there is a win-win-win collaboration right here. So how about we have a conversation? And then boom, we get on calls, and from those calls, we turn those into joint ventures, affiliate partnerships, to where they affiliate my products, or we bundle in my product with their courses, with their programs. There's a lot of joint venture opportunities that I end up creating, and they end up leading to a lot bigger deals. And so that is how I have strategically used my podcast on the host side of things to make income off of it. Also, in the middle of every single interview, I interrupt the interview and I do my own little 15-second, hey, if you want to get booked on podcasts just like this one, so you can grow your brand, become more known in your industry, go to blank.com so you can get the free guide on how to do it. And then I'm driving people to my email list from the show, because the podcast is rented land. The email list is owned land. Nobody can come and take that away from them. And so I drive them to the podcast. If anybody gets on my list, you will see the savagery of like how I email market, but I do make about $1,000 a day right now from the emails. And so that's how I monetize it from the whole side of things. And sometimes I've even had guests come on and they have an offer that I think is good for my audience. I'm like, yo, drop me an affiliate link and I'll put that in the show notes. All right. And then if they go there, boom, I get me a little something.
Right.
So those are ways I've personally done it. Again, I'm not sitting here to teach people on a how-to, more of a how I, here's how I did it.
Yeah. But I think what you're saying is really important because it doesn't matter how big your podcast is. I know people who are like #1 podcast in self-help or development in the UK, and they still have trouble getting.
I know this guy with millions of downloads doesn't make a penny from it. I'm like,
exactly.
Dude,
so that's, you have to think about affiliates. You have to think about joint ventures. You have to think
sponsorships, about those things too.
Yeah.
If you have good traffic, people will pay you. I don't think I'm at a sponsorship level yet, or people haven't pitched me on it, but I might be open to it, but yeah, there's another ways you can monetize a podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk about your 3-step framework.
Yeah, for sure. So step 1 is, one time I pitched my mentor, Michael Chu, to see if I can go speak at his client, to go speak at his mastermind, his in-person event. I pitch him, he says, yes, I do my talk. Over 40 of his clients that were there submitted a request to work with me after the fact.
Wow.
Now, the reason I say that is because it highlights the power of, again, being endorsed by somebody that has your people. So what that means is you need to go find your Michael Chus. You need to go find the podcast that already have your people. There's a couple of ways to do this. One of the most simplest ways to do this, in my opinion, is making a list of the top influencers in your niche. Because what this is going to do is you look those names up on the podcast app. If they have their own show, it'll show it there. But what I want you to pay attention to is all the shows that they've guested on. All those shows will start popping up. Bam. You start adding those to a list. So step 1 is building your dream 100. Honestly, I have thousands of podcasts in my database. And so make it as big as you possibly can. The bigger, the better. So that right there is just step 1. Another way to find podcasts in your niche, something that, me and Anika both know of, is Podmatch. So you can go and try Podmatch. There's a lot of other softwares out there too. I personally think Podmatch is one of the best. I'm on a lot of them. So that's another way you can find shows. So that's step 1. Very simple. Just find your dream 100, build the pitch list. You got to have an extensive pitch list, and it makes pitching a lot easier when you have a list already built, right? And so do that. Step 2 is what I call crafting your power pitch. Now, once again, using that story of the Claude Hopkins and the Schlitz beer scenario, stories are what enroll people. And so the way that you enroll somebody into a yes is creating a very powerful pitch that you can convey in a video in less than 3 minutes. Now, this is the framework of the pitch. Step 1 is to connect. Find some way to connect with them by mentioning their name, something about the show that you love, the name of the show, yada, yada, yada. This should take about 10, 15 seconds. There's a connect phase. And then you introduce yourself to a story. So instead of saying, my name is blank and I do blank, 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 I go into, I know you don't know me, but my life was deeply impacted. When I was 4 years old, standing in the middle of my grandmother's living room, looking directly out of the window as I saw my dad, strongest man in the universe at that time in my life, drop to his knees, scream at the top of his lungs, Nancy, please don't leave me and please don't take my boys from me. I mean, think about that. You're getting that kind of pitch.
Yeah.
You're like,
okay, you want to hear more? Yeah.
Keep going.
What happened?
Please.
Yeah.
Because what you do is you open a loop in the mind. When you open a loop in somebody's brain, it's called the open loop effect. Basically, the mind needs to come to its own conclusion or it will go crazy. And so picture this. I woke up at 3 a.m. shivering, goosebumps all over, and I hear a loud thump in the kitchen. So I roll over, put my feet on the hardwood, cold ground, and I creep over to the staircase to see what's going on. And what I see, you wouldn't believe. Right now, you're probably sitting there thinking, what the heck did you see? Yeah. I need to know what you saw. I'm not going to tell you because I just made that story up. Yeah, now you're going to have to come to your own conclusion. So that goes to show that stories are so interesting because they open a loop in your brain that you can't help but close because it's human nature to close that down.
Exactly.
So that's why you want to throw a story in there. Now, the story, people are like, what story do I tell? There is a reason you do what you do. There is a story behind got this idea, why it was moving enough to do something about it, and kind of like big lesson of why you do what you do. And there's a story there. You just have to tell it. My client Chase, when she got my course, she was like, Adrian, I'm listening to you tell your story. And oh my God, that's such an emotional story. I don't have nothing like that. She was like, I got a happy family. And like, I grew up and
everybody has a story.
Exactly. She was, I don't have one like that. I said, Chase, me and her, like, we're friends like this. I can talk to her like this. I was like, Chase, look, shut up. All right. What I need you to do is I need you to follow the damn framework. Go pitch and let me know what happens. She pitched 22 shows, got booked on 11 of her first pitches.
There you go.
50% conversion rate.
Yeah.
Again, the average conversion rate for pitches, by the way, cold pitches is 10 to 15%. So the power of a story. And so what's the reason you do what you do and tell it? And then the third piece of that video, pitch again, connect, introduce yourself to story, and then do something that so many people are scared to do. Ask. Say, do you want to collaborate? Like, I feel like it'd be a great guest for your show. Can we do this thing? Let me know what the best next steps are so we can get scheduled.
Yep.
I can't tell you the amount of amazing marketing I've seen that had the weakest call to action ever. Brian Tracy says the future belongs to those who ask for what they want. So ask for what you want at the end of that pitch and close the pitch out. That's step 2 of the framework. Step 3 of the framework is being what I call a power guest. So replay this entire interview and listen to my very first answer. My very first answer was, so it was 2014. Boom. What did I open up with?
Yeah.
A story.
Exactly.
Immediately, I opened up with a story, and I opened it up in a way that makes you want to keep listening. It was 2014. It was the winter of 2014. What happened in the winter of 2014? All right. And it makes you want to keep listening. So one of the keys to being a guest that literally forces people to want to follow you is to answer every single question, every single one. And people say, I can answer every question with that. You can. I literally have done it this entire time. Answer every question with a story.
Yeah.
And make sure that story, 90% of the stories, and I know I kind of broke this rule because we did spend a lot of time on my journey, but make sure a lot of them are about your clients. Like, for example, Adrian, how do you overcome self-doubt? You know, I had this client one time come to me. Here's a wrong way to answer it. Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to like change your neurons and you want to blah, 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 blah. It's like a boring way to answer it. That's how most people answer stuff. They're teachers and they can't help but want to teach, right? So instead, I want everybody to assume the identity of a storyteller, not a teacher, a storyteller. You're going to be much more influential. So I once had this client come to me. When I say I once had this client come to me, that puts it in their mind, oh, this guy works with people. So I had this one client come to me and he made $19 million a year, very successful. But for some reason, he was like a sissy little girl when it came to putting out his book. In other words, he procrastinated for 6 years. Anytime it came to putting his book out, he got so scared. And he's very driven. And so he was like, what the heck is going on? So we do hypnosis and we do something called timeline therapy during the process. And he goes back to a memory where he's 4 years old. So he's in a group of his cousins, about 6 or 7 of them. They're all having a conversation. He wants to input something and add to the conversation. So he opens up his mouth and his oldest cousin says, shut up, Alex. Nobody wants to hear you. And in that moment, as he's emotional, he makes a decision. That decision is, my voice doesn't matter. Yep. So no wonder why at 38 years old, you're going to be so scared to put your book out, because that's one of the most vulnerable ways to put your voice out there in the world. And so the only way to overcome self-doubt is to actually pinpoint not the event that caused this trauma, but the belief that's causing this behavior. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you can reframe that. In other words, you can do some inner child work and change the perspective of that little child, which will set in as the adult opens their eyes out of this hypnosis session. They will be different.
Yeah.
And so you got to work on your identity, not the feelings, the identity behind the feelings, but you got to follow your feelings to get there. And that's how you do it. And then you go into the lesson that you want the people to know. You go into a little bit more practical exercises for them. But look at what that does. That is way more influential, way more interesting than do this, do this, do this, do this.
Right,
do this.
exactly.
So you want to make sure you have some client stories written out somewhere. You know them. You can tell them like in the back of your head. So the way I like to think about it is write a bunch of lessons that you want the people to know. Like the best way to market is to market to the people and organizations instead of directly to a person. Because in order for somebody to buy from me, they have to believe that.
Yeah.
So I got to think of, okay, what beliefs do I need to install in the minds of these people? Okay, cool. What stories highlight those beliefs? What stories highlight these lessons? If I would have just said, look, the best way to market is to do this, likely wouldn't believe me. But when I said the way that I positioned it, you're like, oh my God, that makes a whole bunch of sense. Because stories are how we make sense of the world. And then there's one more part to being a power guest. And this is not botching the end. So many people botch the end. And what I mean is this is it. Every single host, trust me, I've never been on a show where the host didn't ask this question. And you're probably going to ask it too. Where can the audience learn more about you? Where can they follow you? If they want to get to know more about you, typically what happens. So most people do this. I got a podcast named blank. On my website, bam. I have a landing page, a free guide for this. If you want to check out my LinkedIn, I'm on this, Instagram, first name, last name, _ 2000, 6400, Twitter.
Just give them one place to go.
What happens is you create this problem of too many options. Yep. And so what I do is I say, you're right, one place. And so I say, look, if you want to follow me and get more in my world, remember how I was talking about how you can blame me? Look, the best way to do that is to go to www.blank.com and download blank, where it's going to show you how to do exactly what I talked about in this interview. It's going to show you blank, 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 and go there. Because what happens is now you got their email, and now you can market heavy to them, and then you can make your money on the back end. And so I guess if there was a 4-step to the framework, it will be execute the follow-up funnel. And the way that I do that is with the most interesting emails anybody has ever received in their inbox. I do that through telling very interesting stories, like why you shouldn't kill roly-polies. You want to slap me with $26,000? How being fat changed my life? Like very interesting stories, but every single one of them is a pitch. And then I promote it for 4 days at $4.97. They don't bite then. Hey, $6.97 for the remainder of eternity. And I will more than likely increase the price and it will never go down again. And I stand by that. And so you create some kind of FOMO in the first 4 days. And then it goes to daily email sends. I send 1 or 2 emails a day. Some people think it's too much, but my bank balance says otherwise. And so you have a system to follow up, or else you're just going to fill up your car with no engine inside of it and it won't vroom vroom.
Well, and on that note, I am going to direct people to go to thepowerpitch.co/PDF. I'll also put that in the show notes so that everybody can find you. Adrian, this has been a very fun, entertaining, and educational episode. Awesome. Thank you so much. I know it took us a little bit. We had some things. I had to reschedule a couple times.
All good. I'm happy.
So glad to have you on.
All in perfect timing. And one thing about that link, by the way, is when you go there, you're basically going to learn everything I did to get booked on shows, but it goes more into depth. That'll give you more insight on that, as long as some other bonuses in your email whenever you download it. So
fantastic. And lastly, do you have a mantra, motto, or quote that you live by?
Build the list.
Okay.
Despite anything else, build the list.
That is all we need. Adrian, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you to our audience for coming back for another amazing episode. And I'll be back again in a few days with another one to drop more knowledge on you. With that, until next time. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.